I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, you know, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
What are you talking about? Parlayed? What? Did you not see Roots? Did you not read it? What the? Okay. We're telling you this history. It's our American history because you need to know so we don't repeat it. And here you come, DeSantis, trying to repeat it. Well, you know what? As long as the Smithsonian is standing, as long as there are books, as long as there are families, because remember, we didn't have books. All these stories come to us from our families. You don't call our families liars. They know what happened because their grandma's grandma told them. You, sir, I can't even say the word. You're a disgrace.
Hey there, guys. So I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg and her strong reaction to Kamala Harris's claims about Florida's slavery curriculum. So according to our vice president, Florida Republicans are teaching children that slavery was beneficial for Africans. And Goldberg, who is basically about as intelligent as she is outspoken, she expressed her outrage on The View, as usual. What's not usual is that her reaction actually got quite a bit of skepticism, quite a bit of criticism, and some are actually saying that it's just misrepresentation of the situation. Faux outrage, they're calling it. So critics, there of course are all over the vice president's claim. Apparently people, they see it really for just what it is. And it's just another half-assed attempt to label Republicans and conservatives as a whole as racist. And especially Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, who of course the left view as a pretty massive threat. So anyway, people are all over Goldberg's claim that no black people were involved in Florida's education curriculum for African American studies. Of course, that's A, totally not true. Not at all. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And B, a complete and total oversimplification of what it really takes, what is really involved in writing a statewide curriculum. And as usual, anything dumb that Whoopi says, thanks to the universe, it goes absolutely viral. And as always, it's our job to fact check her and try to put some context to her wacky claims and everything going on.
Trying to get through everything that's happened over the weekend and what's all the insanity going on in the world. Like Wednesday, Florida's Board of Education approved what they're calling standards for African American history. I feel like they didn't talk to any African Americans because we could have told them about the history, and nor have anyone seemingly gone to the Smithsonian to find out anything. You know, there are all of these former slaves who have given their testimony. You can go to the Smithsonian and hear them. So apparently they all think it's a lie. But the board defended the standards. I'm sorry for laughing because it's so shocking. Vice President Kamala Harris went to Jacksonville to give her thoughts. Let's take a look.
They want to replace history with lies. Middle school students in Florida to be told that enslaved people benefited from slavery. High schoolers may be taught that victims of violence, of massacres, were also perpetrators. I said it yesterday. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not have it.
I know I didn't say nothing the last time.
Yes.
Because I wanted to listen to what other people had to say, because you know, when you talk about enslaved people and just the horrible things that happened to slavery, what we often forget is that slavery continued, right? So you sort of erase then Jim Crow, and you erase Reconstruction, and you erase the sundown laws, and you just start erasing the wealth gap and the inequality, and you erase the fact that while black people, maybe he taught his son how to be a blacksmith, this country was built on the backs of black labor for free. Yeah. And the other part of it is that more than 100 political elites in this country today have families linked to slavery. A fifth of the nation's congressmen, Living presidents, Supreme Court justices, and governors are direct descendants of ancestors who enslaved people. That's how they made their money. President Joe Biden and every living former U.S. president, except for Trump, because he came from Germany. We don't know what his family was doing there. But they're direct descendants of slaveholders, including Barack Obama, because he had a white mother. So don't sit here and tell me one side of the story, that black people may have had an enhancement when white people really benefited the most and continue to do so today. And I believe that's what they are trying to hide.
Talk about all of it. Talk about the banking, that you know, if you were black, you couldn't get a loan.
Yeah.
Okay? Talk about
home.
You couldn't get a home.
You couldn't get the vet loan.
You couldn't drink certain water from certain.
But that's why it's so upsetting when people say, but I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't own slaves. No, but you continue to reap the benefits of it. And I think if you want to, DeSantis or whoever in Florida, if you want to teach both sides of those stories, I'm all for it.
So you can tell from the way that Whoopi talks about the Florida standards that she really hasn't even taken the time to even think about reading them. If she had, she'd know that the curriculum covers the hell out of the horrors of slavery in a really detailed way. We just did a video about this a day or two ago. You got to check it out. But anyway, she totally ignores almost all the curriculum. All these people have reduced 216 pages of in-depth study to literally one line. And now she insists that no black people were consulted in the process. Like that even matters, for one. But the fact that she said it, we're able to highlight the fact that it's just not true. So she's got absolutely zero clue what she's talking about any of this. The standards were actually approved by a black scholar, Dr. William B. Allen. And we're going to show a clip about him speaking about it. And we also have another host on The View, Sonny Hostin, who interestingly finds a way to bring up a discussion about President Trump supposedly descending from Nazis during a conversation about Florida's African-American history standards. How the two topics are related, nobody knows, but any opportunity for her to say the word Trump, she's going to take it. She literally turned him being one of the few presidents not related to slave owners into the least positive thing ever. And it's actually a real talent. I'm highly impressed by Sonny Hostin and her ability to do and say things just like that. But the funny thing is she conveniently ignores the fact that the vice president herself comes from slave owners. And the left's, their selective framing of historical facts and their targeted propaganda, man, it's impressive. I wish we were better at that, but I really do feel absolutely terrible for any and all the mushy brain people who actually watch this crap and feel like they're learning something. I'm going to show you an interview with the Dr. William B. Allen. He's a professor emeritus at Michigan State University. Don't hold that against him. Go Blue. He's actually a member of Florida's African American History Standards Work Group. They're the guys who worked pretty tirelessly to come up with what might actually be the best African American history curriculum in the entire country. The guy played a huge role in shaping the standards, and he explains it pretty wonderfully why the claims made by Harris and most of the left are completely inaccurate. Here's the clip, but before we check it out, guys, thanks to everyone that's been subscribing and leaving positive comments. We appreciate the support, and if you haven't already, please help us with the algorithm so we can get our message to more people. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. Check it out.
There's been a little bit of backlash to these standards that were put out, and like you said, that these were done in open sessions so the public could listen or watch along. What would you say to critics who say these standards have set education back?
Well, I can't answer critics whom I haven't seen or heard. The only criticism I've encountered so far is a single one that was articulated by the vice president, and which was an error. As I stated in my response to the vice president, it was categorically false. It was never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this will see this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
So you would say that you're standing by these standards, even though the vice president was very verbose yesterday.
Well, I will repeat to Mr. McCarty that I'm not claiming authorship, but I'm certainly willing to stand behind the work of my members in the task force and to stand behind the collaborative process. I have read, of course, all the standards. I am quite confident in their validity and their historical accuracy and their motivations and intent.
Amid all of this, do you think the wording should be amended?
I do not. No, I think it would be effectively to erase people's history.
This was a group effort, along with everyone on the task force. Do you have a message to people out there who maybe only consuming this news through a broadcast like ours or reading on the internet? Is there a message that you want to send to people out there about this task force and the product that it delivered to the state?
Yes, I would certainly say to people, I know that people can't engage in the in-depth research which stands behind many of the task force members and a product like this, but they need to know that it is available to them. They can read John Hope Franklin, who wrote an extensive work on the history of Africans from the 17th century well into the 19th century, which shows copious examples of what we describe. Similarly, Henry Louis Gates, whose slave narratives offer examples also, and Paul Finkelman's Encyclopedia of African American History, or the more recent work by David Hackett Fisher on African founders. And I would ask people to bear in mind that when we talk about the resourcefulness of those people subject to the oppression of slavery, we're not talking only about the United States. We're talking about people worldwide, and particularly in the islands before they came often to the United States, as well as those who came directly from Africa. We're talking about the experience of oppression and how people respond to the experience of oppression. And we want people to recognize that there's an opposite to Stockholm Syndrome. People don't necessarily simply embrace their oppressors when they're oppressed. They also react adaptively, and they find ways to make pathways for themselves, even in the presence of oppression. And that's what calls upon their resourcefulness, their resilience, and their adaptability. And from these things, we begin to see how it becomes possible for some people to see that even though people were enslaved, they made great contributions to the growing prosperity of this society.
So, man, it really is amazing to see narratives that literally celebrate resilience and celebrate the strength of Black people in our history being met with actual and really, really vitriolic resistance from the left. Narratives that talk about the ability of Black people to overcome adversity, even literally in the face of the most extreme hardship that could be imaginable, which I imagine that's what slavery was. They're ignored, they're demeaned. And here's the thing, man, the left doesn't want messages of empowerment. They only want narratives of victimhood for young Black children. This is nothing new. This is absolutely nothing new for them. This is just the same old tired setting of low expectations for Black kids and blaming every setback on oppression. Why give a kid hope and an education that's actually a good education when you could just blame the white guy and feel virtuous about it? All this kind of garbage does, man, I believe all it does is stop real progress and stop any real personal growth for these kids. And it's really, really sad to me to see powerful TV personalities like Whoopi Goldberg and Sonny Hostin keep these sort of harmful views alive, man, and keep them prevalent, while at the same time making a ton of money while claiming oppression. It's an irony that I honestly can't believe most of their viewers can so easily ignore. Anyway, so this outrage over Florida's history teaching, it includes the fact that slaves developed skills despite their conditions, which is amazing when you can step back from the echo chamber and actually look at it. I wish I could say it was surprising the way they're treating it, but nothing is surprising anymore. The thought, I think the goal should be to teach all aspects of history, not only the ones that fit a certain narrative. Narratives, no matter how much we like or dislike them, they are not history. And lessons of overcoming adversity, resilience, progress, these have to be celebrated, man, not suppressed, not demonized. These are not just Black stories also, to be fair. These are stories. These are the true story of almost every immigrant community that we have in the building of this country. Asians, the Irish, man, they all face the same discrimination and the same really, really bad conditions, you know, that their stories of resilience, they're never discussed. It's almost like there has to be a most oppressed in the group, you know, which really is not at all how oppression works. And here's an idea that I have. You know, maybe we should remember that our ancestors, regardless of their circumstances, worked really, really hard and had to persevere, man. They didn't dwell on victimhood. They did not have that privilege. You know, they had absolutely no choice but to overcome their challenges and make a better lives for their descendants. And today we're obsessed with victimhood, man. We have the most successful people in our country still walking around claiming to be victims. It's freaking insane. And anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think of that. You know, what do you guys think the world would look like after a couple generations, or even one generation, of teaching kids about the power of resiliency, the strength of adversity, and the ability to overcome obstacles, no matter how big, no matter how small. If we teach them the value, you know, to value progress and not dwell on oppressions, what do you think the country would actually look like? Anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. That's just my take. Let me know in the comments what your take is. And guys, please don't forget, help us with the algorithm. We appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, most importantly, share the Common Sense Garage, and we'll see you in the next one.